Hey guys, welcome back to another art education video with the Bakersfield Museum of Art. I'm Curtis, and today we will be covering part 2 of our one-point perspective project. Now, if you haven't watched part 1 of the one-point perspective series, I would encourage you to go back and watch that really quickly and then come back and join us again. But I will actually really briefly summarize the steps that we learned in that lesson. The things we'll need for today are paper, pencil, eraser, and ruler or straight edge. We're going to start off today by drawing diagonal lines from each corner of our paper, kind of making a big X. Then we're going to want to make a small dot in the middle of our paper. And then finally, we're going to want to draw a more bold line across our paper, separating it in half with a bold line. Now go ahead and darken up the lines that are closest to you, and go ahead and erase the lines that are farthest away from you, and that's actually going to give us the start of our perspective drawing. Okay, so now that we have our vanishing point, our horizon line, and the beginning of our road lines in place, we're actually going to move forward with actually drawing a little scene of a city. This is a great exercise to really learn how to do one-point perspective drawing. So some things to keep in mind, and you'll see this as I'm doing my drawing, is all diagonal lines are going to come from that vanishing point. We're going to be drawing them towards the vanishing point. All horizontal lines are going to be parallel with the bottom edge of our paper or our horizon line. And then all vertical lines are going to be parallel with the edges, the left and right edges of our paper. But you'll see what I mean. Now to start off with, we want to make a sidewalk for our city. To do this, we're going to draw 4 more diagonal lines going towards that vanishing point. The first one you'll want to space about 2 inches away from the first road line, and then another one just a little bit beneath it. Then we're going to add horizontal lines connecting the closest diagonal lines on both sides of our paper. This is going to create the top portions of our sidewalk. As you can see, they are more and more spaced out the closer we get to ourselves. This is all to help with our perspective. Then we are going to add vertical lines connecting our horizontal lines to the innermost diagonal line, completing our sidewalk, giving our sidewalk a 3-dimensional effect. Now for step 2, we are going to be adding buildings. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated. We're going to start off by making some vertical lines branching off from our sidewalk. We want these lines to go past our horizon line, and we also want to make sure that they are parallel with the left or right side of our paper. Then, using a diagonal line drawn from our vanishing point, go ahead and lightly draw a diagonal line connecting the vertical lines that we just drew. At this time, you can also erase some of the unnecessary lines that we have at the moment. Now, if you accidentally erase a line that you actually need, that's okay. We can go back in and add it in at a later time. I like to just clean up my drawings a little bit as I go. It helps me visualize what I'm going for. Then we're going to be drawing some horizontal lines from the tops of the vertical lines that we just drew. Again, we want to make sure that these are parallel with our horizon line or the top of our page. These are going to create the rooftops for our buildings that we're creating right now. Oh, looks like I forgot a vertical line that I needed, so I'm going to go ahead and add that in right now. Feel free to do the same if you've forgotten any lines. I'll go ahead and clean up just a little bit more. A good way to think of perspective drawing is creating objects by adding and subtracting lines in space. And finally, I want to go ahead and put a couple more horizontal lines at the bases of my buildings. where they would meet the ground. And of course, those are going to be parallel with our horizon line. Now at this point, does your drawing look like this? Great. But if not, that's completely okay. This is a little bit more complex of a lesson. Go ahead and take a step back and maybe review some of the steps that we've taken to get it to this point. But going forward, we actually want to make these buildings look a little bit more like buildings rather than just big blocks. So for these buildings, we want to go ahead and actually add some doors to them. You're actually going to be using the same principles that we did to actually build the building. You want to add those vertical lines in there. Make sure they're a little bit spaced apart so they make a good representation of door. And then the top of the door is going to, of course, be from the same vanishing point, just a nice diagonal line from the vanishing point. Again, don't worry about these things being perfect right now. You have plenty of time to practice. Go ahead and do a little bit of erasing. Just get rid of those unnecessary lines that are left over from making our doors. Now we're going to go ahead and add some windows. And windows are very similar to doors. If they're facing our street, they're going to act very much like drawing a door, only it's more of completing a square. However, if they're facing away, if they're on the side of the building, they're a little bit different, and you'll see that in just a moment. Go ahead and still use our vanishing point to draw our diagonal lines, completing our windows. However, for the windows on the side, we're actually just using straight up and down, horizontal and vertical lines because they're facing towards us, so they don't have that same perspective that the doors do. Now, if you've come this far, congratulations. You've taken a big step forward in your one-point perspective skills. Now with the drawing, we're going to go ahead and just add some embellishments, add some details. I'm putting some grass on my empty spaces, some little doorknobs on my doors, some bars on my windows. And then I think I want to do something with the background, maybe make some mountains, maybe a sunset, maybe add a cloud or two. And then finally some lines from my road. Makes it look a little bit more complete. So that wraps up our second part to our one-point perspective video series. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you once again for joining us at the Bakersfield Museum of Art for an art lesson, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.